Hello, this is Mrs. Tomlinson, and we are in week 7 of our virtual learning online. And I'm in our Google Classroom under the Classroom tab, and I'm in our stop motion animation project. This is going to be our focus for this week. Your goal is to create a stop motion animation that brings a character to life and connects with viewers. You can use this slideshow attached to help guide you through the whole artistic process. So let's open up this slideshow and kind of dig into what stop motion is, some of the really pioneer artists that really started stop motion, and the different ways you can complete a stop motion animation. There's lots of different materials you can use and a couple different approaches that you can take. So your goal again is to create a stop motion animation that brings a character to life and connects with your viewers. What is stop motion animation? Can you think in your head right now maybe what types of stop motion animations you've seen in the past? What they look like? Have you seen any cartoons, any movies or shows that have used stop motion animation? Anything published on YouTube? Stop motion animation is an animation technique where an object is moved incrementally and pictures are taken of each movement. So incrementally kind of means in pieces, right? It's not moved all at the same time, right? It's moved like bit by bit. And then when this is shown in succession, the object appears to move on its own. So you're basically going to be taking many photographs, which are still images, right? A still photograph. And then you're going to put this in a succession. You're going to put it in like a video format to make your objects appear, your characters appear to move on their own. So let's think about doing some research about stop motion and think about what other artists have made stop motion animations about. What types of materials did they use? And what were they communicating to the viewer? One artist from the past is a German artist, and it's Lotte Redinger, and she is a silhouette stop motion pioneer. You can click on this video, which I'd love for you to go back. I'm not going to play all the videos throughout this video, but this video is attached in the slideshow, and you can kind of see how she's sketched out and drawn her figures, and then she uses everything with black paper. All the characters, the objects, the setting, the background is black characters, black cutout pieces of paper laid flat on a surface, and then the background is all white. So that's all it is. So it's more like a silhouette stop motion, and that's what she uses. And she was doing this in like the 1930s. So this was a long time ago. She had a really interesting camera rig set up with like piping where she would attach her camera from above looking down. So she didn't have to hold the camera. And that's how she would make these films. She was really famous for doing like Hansel and Gretel and some old fairy tales. So she did some old fairy tales and did like kind of her own version of them in this stop motion animation. But she was really good at making her movements look really fluid and really pretty incredible for her time. This is a student's, so I'll just kind of go back right here. So this one is using flat paper on a flat surface. So it's more like a, 2D. You're thinking of like using a 2D approach. Okay. So this one was with paper. This is a 7th grade student who created an animation. You can click and watch this. It's a kind of like an advocacy video about forest fires and preventing forest fires. So this artist just used construction paper. He even ripped construction paper here and just made multiple trees and laid them down on a piece of paper. Nothing is glued down. I think maybe the road and certain background elements are glued down, but his little characters in the front are not glued down. These are just stationary. And then he took pictures and moved each one, took a picture and moved the character, took a picture and moved it. This is a fabulous animation using flat surface as well. This artist is an 11th grade student. So this student is going to be significantly older than you. One thing I thought, the reason why I wanted to show you this is because this character goes through a wonderful transition. So there's a beautiful little storyline here, but it's only 55 seconds long. The music is great that's added to it. Also, it's just a simple black paper or white paper in the background, a boat. You can see the waves. They just used white paper. And you can see in order to make these waves kind of move and pulse and kind of breathe and be moving and having action all the time, these bottom pieces are all moved incrementally in every single shot. So that gives it a lot of life. A lot of life. And this character that she drew, I want you to keep in mind that you need to keep all of the different joints in different pieces. So if you're going to draw on a piece of paper and make a character, you need to think about how the arm and then the forearm and the hand, these are two different shapes right here. Okay, two different cutout shapes that she put together. You don't even have to glue them or attach them. And also the neck is different and this body's different, the torso, and then the legs are different. The boat's a different shape, so they're all different pieces of paper to keep you, she's able to move them. This is another 2D type of animation where this student was a 7th grade student and she had one piece of paper. I think maybe one or two different pieces of paper for different scenes. She took a photograph of her drawing, and this is about an animal advocacy video about eating meat. So she was a vegetarian, so she was advocating for that. So she took a photograph of the drawing, and then she erased a little bit with charcoal, or with the eraser. Then she drew again with charcoal. Then she erased again and made the drawing change. So you can see, like here in this animation, the eye will slowly close and then cry. Well, she'll just erase it and then make it go close a little bit, take a picture. And then she actually did this where she set the camera up on a tripod. And if you don't have a tripod, you can always use a table or a chair or a stool. And then you can tape your drawing to the wall. And that worked really, really well for her. So that was really impressive. Here are animations that is using more of a 3D approach, and they've used objects. And this is a cooking film. It's Pez, and it's the first stop motion cooking film. And it's called Western Spaghetti. So this artist used objects. And I really want you to think about how did they use objects in a creative way? And how did this artist focus on the textual qualities of objects? Like even right here, you've got this foil, which is getting all these reflective qualities. And there's so much going on surfaces and textural elements in this piece. And then think about how they were successful at doing that. And maybe could you do something like that? How could you use texture? So they also have a guacamole. It's called fresh guacamole. So this is really interesting too. I want you to kind of think of those same ideas. This was actually an Academy Award nominee for Best Animated Short Film. Very, very cool animation. This is a animation called Marcel the Shell with shoes on. And this is really a lot more of a humorous approach. But I wanted you to see this example of stop motion because the character is just really fun and cute, and you can kind of connect to what he's feeling and what's happening. The artist basically took a shell and put an eyeball on a shell and put like two little Barbie shoes. So these are just things that were all laying around their house. You can see here they're using like a fuzz ball so they've placed this tiny little character in a real setting that's an adult world, and it kind of talks about how this little character uses things to go through his world and have experiences, and some of his fears and some of his anxieties and some of his things that are exciting for him and fun. And so they really humanize this little shell, and it's really funny, but it's also like really helps you make a connection to this little character in such a short little time. This is another mix of student animations, and it's 2D and 3D. So you can see the student even used food for the background and made a character cupcake, and there's so many more. So that's a fun one to watch too. So please go back and watch these little stop motion animations. So you really have a good idea of what you want to make. And your first step to making your animation is to generate your original ideas. So think about, what's your animation going to be about? This is a really great writing prompt to help you get started. So if you don't know what you're going to do and you need help and some guidance, I want you to find an object in your house and then respond to the following prompts. At first glance, you might think that I'm blank. The truth is that I come from blank. Once I found myself blank, so I blank, and in the end I learned blank. So this is kind of a lot like how they approached Marcel the Shell. This can help you kind of creatively morph a character. So whether it's a binder clip, a stick of butter, whatever, something from your fridge, any item in your house. Really be creative. Nothing is off limits in your house. So think of a jar, a set of keys. You could really have fun with this. So after you find that object, you do this prompt, I want you to think about what the sequence of your animation will look like. This is the planning step. So now you can make your storyboard. You can just take regular paper and draw some boxes on it. Think of what's your first frame, second frame, third frame, fourth frame, fifth frame. You might not have to do all frames because you're going to have lots of different photographs, but really think about how your story is going to progress, what's going to happen, like beginning, middle, and end. Make sure you have an ending so it's interesting. So yes, beginning, middle, and end. These are some guidelines here. I really recommend that you have a creative character. You can include some live action video. Maybe your hand comes into the animation as well. You could include narration. You could record audio over it. You could record music, and you could add text. I love it to be at least 20 seconds long, so that would be awesome if you can get to that. Think about how many scenes you want to film. I would not do more than like 3 scenes. You can just stick to 1 scene if you want to, but it might be nice to have some change of scenery. Think about how you can make a stable setup so you can have your photographs taken from the same location for every shot. So you could use a phone tripod if you have it, or you can just make a setup where you have a chair and it's facing your setting and scenes that you want to photograph. It could be your Chromebook sitting on a table or a stool, but make sure you have this area set up where you don't have to move it and change things until you're done with your animation. Okay, so find a place in your house or a time of day where you can do this really well. Think of what lighting is good to do photographs. I was actually thinking of making my sample right now, and I'm looking at my studio now going, oh my gosh, this is not the right time to do a sample for students because it's too dark in my studio and the lighting won't be really nice. So what I'm going to have to do is wait till tomorrow and maybe film it outside and photograph it outside in my yard, or photograph it when the natural light is here, which is the sunlight. You do not have to purchase materials to accomplish this project. If you have a Chromebook and you have things around your house, you can do this. You do not need anything fancy. You don't need special clay. You can just make a character out of whatever you have at your house. What technology can you use? So these are some website resources. These would be websites that you would just go to and click the link, and you could go to these resources. I'll kind of click on one here to take you through it. You would go to these websites if you wanted to do this through your Chromebook, okay? You could also take photographs with your phone and then load your JPEGs into this resource as well. So this is like a website that does it. Now, we would probably be using Dragonframe if we were in our classrooms with all of our software. We would also probably use Photoshop actually to just load our files into stacks. We would actually load all of our pictures and make an animation with a bunch of our pictures. That's how we can make a GIF and or a GIF, an animated GIF. So we would Probably use Photoshop if we were in our class. If we really wanted to, we could use Adobe Premiere to load it. You could also use Audition to do the sound and audio. So there's a lot of stuff we would be doing differently, but this is going to be able, I put these resources here so you had access to make everything while you were at home and just had your Chromebooks. Let's see if this is loading. This is not loading very well for me, so I'm going to keep going through your resources here for technology, and I'll come back to that. These are apps for your smartphone, okay? So you could think about downloading these. If it's okay with your parents, you can use that. Stop Motion Studio is like the basic, most common one if you just Google stop motion for your phone, if you look on your Play Store or your App Store. Pick Pack Stop Motion and Time Lapse, or Life Lapse Stop Motion Maker, or Stop Motion Cartoon Maker. So you can just look these up if you want to put it on your smartphone. Okay, that's another option you can do. So when you're approaching this with your Chromebook, you take pictures with your Chromebook camera or a camera. Then you could also, this is another route, is that you could use Google Slides to place all your photographs in a slideshow. And then you can turn your slideshow into an animation. So in Google Slides, let's say I have made my animation right in here. You can go right up to File, and you can go to Publish to the Web. And this is how you kind of set the time for your slideshow and make it more into a movie, right? You have incremental rotating photographs. So I would do it like every second or 2 seconds, and then you can publish it. And then you just share the link with me. Okay, and that will be your slideshow. That will actually be a video animation. Please publish your animation to your school YouTube channel, upload your animation to Artsonia, here's the access code, and insert your animation into our collaborative slideshow. We would love to see it, okay? And please, of course, as always, email me or type in the comments box to give me any questions, suggestions, or if you need help with anything. I'm always here for you to help.